Hey there, and welcome to this Wednesday Word of Wisdom. I'm your host, Michelle Newstetter, and today we're going to talk about boundaries. Now, just super quickly before I dive in, I'm just going to ask you to subscribe to this video. And if it helps at all, you can also get this as a downloadable podcast on any of your favorite podcast providers. Just search for Motivation Moments with Michelle.
Get your daily dose of motivation on the Motivational Moments with Michelle podcast. In Motivation with Michelle podcast, you'll get encouraging, uplifting, and life-changing wisdom that will transform your world at your fingertips, 24 hours a day. Get a fuller, deeper revelation of the tools you can implement to see incredible transformation in your life from Michelle Newstetter's powerful teachings. Tune in whenever you need to be edified, uplifted, or a dose of motivation, no matter where you are. Subscribe to Motivational Moments with Michelle podcast with Michelle Newstetter today on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SoundCloud.
Now, boundaries can be one of those things that is a little bit of a confusing topic for some people. We've heard of having real strict, rigorous boundaries, drawing a line in the sand. Let your no be no, let your yes be yes. And often that can look like a heavy stone castle with huge walls and a moat and a massive drawbridge where nobody's allowed in. Or you might be one of those people whose lives look a little bit more like, say, a children's soccer field where there's no walls, there's just people and maybe a referee, and it's chaotic because there's no boundaries. People are just running around, and it can feel a little bit overwhelming. But if I'm honest, I think boundaries need to be a little bit more fluid than that. It doesn't have to be one or the other. In fact, your boundaries could look a little bit more like a house with a yard and a fence with a gate. And hey, you know what? There are some people who just don't deserve to be in your yard. In fact, the one thing I really want you to think about as you listen here is influence, okay? Because depending on where we put people in our world, where we set those boundaries with people, determines the level of influence. And you know what? A title does not mean influence, because a lot of times we let people influence us who really should not be influencing us just because they are your mom or your dad or your best friend from forever does not mean that they should be one of the key influencers in your life. And this can be a really hard concept for some people to get a hold of. A friend of mine uses this concept of a bullseye. And we start kind of in the center red inner circle of the bullseye. And you put you right there in the center because you are the CEO of your life. But you need to look at it almost as like a business structure, right? Where in a business, you would have a boardroom, and in your boardroom would be your board members, and your board members would be those ones who start to influence what's happening at the core. Now, in the very center, like I said, you need to be there. You need to be the CEO. But who else in your life is getting to call the shots? Who else do you think belongs in the inner core? Who gets to determine your identity? You know, the only person really that should be in that center is probably you. Unless you're, say, spiritual and you might have God at the center. But really, you are the CEO of your life. In the next level of your boardroom, we want to start putting people in there who are consistent in their ability, in their desire to want to add value to your life. And in this analogy, we call these people eagles. Why? Because, as it's been explained to me, when there's a storm, I don't know if you know this, but eagles use their wings to elevate themselves and fly above the storm. When things get tough, they go up. And if you're not spending time with people who want to elevate and rise above the challenges, to move above the storm, you're going to have a hard time doing that for yourself. So I want you to think right now, how many people in your circle are adding value to you? In the next ring of the bullseye, we have people that we're going to call turkeys in this analogy. And the biggest proportion of your inner circle is going to land in this place. See, these are going to be people who would like to add value, but the problem is that they don't have a lot of fruit in their lives. They complain about their work, their partner, they complain about traffic, they kind of are attracted to chaos, to gossip. They're kind of energy vampires in your life. They take value from you because you're at a higher level than them, and they actually limit your potential. Now, you could still spend time with these people, but what we don't want to do is allow their mindset to affect us. Now, remember at the beginning, I said that the boundaries can be fluid, right? Which means that anybody in your world has the potential to become an eagle in your life. But we can only allow them to be an eagle if they are in a place of adding value to you, of lifting you up. People shift and change, and so our boundaries with them can also shift and change. Now, there's a last group of people in our lives that really their mindset is all about what can you do for me? We really do need to look at these people and ask whether or not we really want them to have any influence in our world. We call these people crabs, and there is a reason. And if you've ever seen a crab fisherman, they will never put just one crab in a bucket, because when you put one crab in a bucket, it can climb out. But if you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, then they will stay there all day, because when one tries to climb out, the others will grab him and pull him back down. And that's what happens in our lives. We have people in our lives who pull us back down. They limit our growth, our success. They don't have any fruit in their life, and they don't have any right being in our boardroom whatsoever. We really don't need to care what these people think, and we don't want to let these people pull us down. You do not want what these people have in their life. Again, these boundaries can be fluid. If these people grow and develop themselves, they can move up. But you know what? There are some people out there who have the opposite problem, and they don't let anybody in their boardroom. They set those super firm boundaries. They are the lone CEO. They won't take anything from anyone. And if that's you, if that's your reality, you are missing out. You're missing out on huge opportunity. We aren't designed to do life alone. We are social creatures. We don't really want to be the stone castle. We also don't want to be the soccer field. We want real people who want to add real value. But it's not your job to make eagles in your life. You give people opportunities. You set the boundaries. And then when people start to add value, you can evaluate whether or not they're ready to become eagles in your life. And if you're thinking, I'm all alone, I don't have anybody, it might be time to start rekindling some friendships. It might be time to start looking at those that you do have and seeing if there's any opportunity to further develop those relationships. Check out all the links in the descriptions here, because I want to invite you to something really special. I want you to take your growth to the next level. And thanks for joining me today. I'll be back with you next week.